Join me today as I dive into Pilgrims by M.R. Leonard, and let's see if I can convince you why this truly is must read science fiction. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son talk about fantasy, science fiction, horror, and other nerdy things that we enjoy. I'm Jim, the father of this show, and I'm bringing a book review to you today. If you enjoy this, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Thank you to all of you who've subscribed recently. We've had a whole bunch of new ones just lately, and I hope you're enjoying finding all of the back episodes we have. Well over 1,000 videos just waiting for you to enjoy. So today I'm talking about Pilgrims by M.R. Leonard, which came out just in November of 2024. The genre is science fiction, and this is an alien first contact story. But it is so much more. Author Michael Leonard reached out to me a few months back asking me to read and review this book. Now, we get a lot of these requests, and I start to feel bad. Some of them I just turned down because there's so many that I've already accepted. And I don't necessarily get through them all very quickly because I'm also reading a lot of other traditionally published classic fiction, horror, fantasy, science fiction that I just never got around to over the years. There's so much to read. Again, over 1,600 books on my TBR. So if I say yes, I can't guarantee when I'll get to something. And that's what I told Michael. It's like, well, okay, yeah, you could send it. It's your book sounds interesting. I don't know when I'll get to it. He said, hey, what if I send an audiobook version? Would that help? I was like, well, yeah, that actually might. I do get through some books a little faster that way. So he said, great, and sent it over. So this audiobook shows up and it's less than 8 hours long. And I'm looking at the premise of the story and I'm getting interested. My curiosity was piqued and I said, screw it. And I squeezed it in between two other big things that I was reading. I am so glad I did. This book was fantastic. I'll get to why. Let's move through the review and we'll see if you agree. The setting is our planet, Earth, in the modern day, but in a time where the world has changed. It's consolidated in some ways, especially financially, economically. The government has taken a stricter, firmer hand, more control, almost a fascist type state in some very scary ways. And this happened starting 5 years previous when aliens were discovered. Legitimately, there's an alien spacecraft coming to Earth and we can't contact it. It doesn't respond to anything. So it's this looming presence moving closer, and that's terrifying. The world is going to descend into chaos, and the governments are like, we got to get ahead of this. Thus, they put in these nearly draconic controls for humanity's own good to keep it from tearing itself apart. You know what we do: riots, burning of cars, vandalism, smashing windows. I mean, we're terrible, and that's all just when your team wins the Super Bowl. When the aliens are coming, yeah. So the controls are put down. It's made it not a great place to live. It could be worse. It's not terrible, but it's not great. That's our setting. Here's my spoiler-lite summary. At the end of this episode, I've got a full spoil section for those of you who've read this already. Up until then, you're perfectly safe. So, spoiler-lite. Our story begins with a heck of a prologue, showing the terrible devastation and destruction that these aliens are capable of. It was a shocking and curious event with some of the things that happen in it. It plants right away the seed that this is not going to be your typical first contact story. But then we jump back in time to meet Austin DeSantis, who will be our protagonist and through whose point of view we will experience the rest of this story. Austin is someone who has seen his life definitely go downhill over the past 5 years. The aliens have ruined his life. His career was on a really positive track, and then the aliens show up, and it changes people's perspective, changes things, and changed his work prospects. He was a specialist in Latin. in speaking Latin, a dead language, but being able to speak it, to translate it, from oral, hearing it. He was like one of the top experts in the world. Had even designed his own program of study at a top university. It was going to be awesome. And then aliens. Nobody cares about Latin anymore. So since that time, he's not been able to get any real meaningful work. He's moved in with his mom. Things have not been good, and he's gotten very nihilistic. So we are now up against the time where the aliens are literally coming down to Earth. It's first contact day, like tomorrow. And he's decided to blow it all, to go out with a bang. Very self-serving, self-centered. He's just screwing the pooch to just give himself one last amazing experience and then probably die because he figures that's what's going to happen. That's where Austen's at when everything turns upside down and crazy because these aliens show up and they speak Latin. Latin. Nobody can understand them. They speak Latin. And not only that, they want to meet the Pope. What? Okay, so Austen gets sucked into this as a person of great significance because he's known as an expert for being able to speak and translate on the fly Latin. He's picked up by the US government and is brought into a face-to-face meeting with these aliens up on their mothership. So these aliens, man, they've crossed time and space to reach Earth. And they are Christian. Literally, they are Roman Catholic. Full out. What the heck? And yet, as you work your way through the story, it actually shockingly makes sense. In the context of this novel, it makes complete sense. You have to read it to believe it. And the ramifications for humanity, think about this, in light of these pilgrims who have traveled across space and time because of their faith, is massive. And the ending? Whoa. Just whoa. Read and find out. Let me talk about the plot depth. I really enjoyed the depth of the story. Numerous twists and reveals all through the book, facilitated by the fact that we're seeing everything through Austen's point of view. There's so much we don't know. Some of the twists you kind of see coming, but a lot of them hit you completely out of left field, just the way M.R. Leonard wants you to be hit out of left field. He knows what he's doing. There are many layers to what's happening in this story, and as the full depth of the narrative is revealed and hits home, it hits with a punch. I almost cried, people. I almost cried. I don't do that. Good stuff. As for characters, some of them are written to serve certain purposes, certain archetypes that advance the story, but others are so nuanced that they are able to lead you to the emotional punches that Leonard has in store for the reader. Austen is the biggest example here. In some ways, he's very relatable. In other ways, he is such a naive idiot. And you want to just reach through the pages and slap him. Yet, he fairly honestly represents most of humanity. How most of us are primarily motivated through our fears and self-interests. It's a pretty accurate portrayal, I thought. The aliens are by far the best characters of the story, written in a manner that is both understandable, but also distinctly alien. We most encounter them through Virgil, an AI robotics spokesperson for them, who has amazing character. This is incredible technology. Virgil serves as the primary contact, guide, and companion for Austen. Along with Virgil and Austen, much of the time, is a representative of the Catholic Church, Father Ambrose. He's a Catholic priest, but he's also their astronomer. Yeah, he's a Catholic priest whose job was to look at the stars. And so it made sense. Hey, aliens have come from the stars. We want you involved here. At first, we're given the sense we're not supposed to trust him. He may have an agenda. The church has an agenda here. It's about power, blah, 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 blah. Nah, we come to understand this is a truly sympathetic and kind character that we will connect with. And that trio, Virgil, Austin, and Father Ambrose, are the sources of the deepest emotional and thought provoking impacts of this story. Leonard's writing style is easy to follow, focusing more on action and dialogue than on deep expositional dumps. And I prefer that. It really keeps the story moving. He also allows us to discover the secrets through the eyes of Austen, rather than any spoon feeding throughout this novel. This choice to write the entire story, except that prologue, through Austen's point of view is very effective in helping us both sympathize and grow frustrated at Austen while keeping our curiosity and interest hooked throughout the novel. There are some powerful themes in this story. The biggest ones that jump out for me are faith and redemption. Through the backdrop of Alien First Contact, this is a story of a man's journey from spiritual deadness, emptiness, to renewal, from self loathing and guilt to forgiveness and belief. A powerful journey. It's also the theme of first contact and theology. Interesting blend. The novel explores this provocative idea of aliens who have a far superior intelligence. I mean, they know physics we haven't even thought of, who come to the absolute conviction that the universe must have a creator, that there are absolute truisms that demand it be that way. It can't just have randomly happened. And then, because of their absolute belief that there is a God, they latch on to human religious beliefs. And they have logical reasons behind that. The way this is laid out in the book is eye-opening. The final big theme that I see here is moral absolutism versus mercy. The aliens' rigid approach to justice is very theologically law-based. This comes into clear conflict with the human concepts of forgiveness and grace. As we apply these things here on our planet, the author does a pretty powerful exploration of the difference between the two and where we should lean. There's some warnings here for you about this book. There's a lot of violence and death at certain points. It's not graphic, but there's definitely death on a large scale. And you see some of it on the page, including the deaths of children. So be aware. And if you're sensitive to language, there is some religious profanity. There's also a number of F-bombs that get dropped. If that's not your thing, be aware. I mean, they happen for reasons, and I think tastefully, and not just shock value. But some readers won't prefer that. My rating is 5 stars. Absolutely. Not only was this a fast-paced, intense story, it also moved me and made me think more deeply than most novels will. I got reflective after reading this story. Only the best of the books can pull this off, moving me in such a way. I would recommend this to anyone who enjoys a first contact story. It's a fresh and original approach to that. As the aliens turn out to be Catholic, I will say that Christians in general may enjoy this story more than people of other beliefs, but it is absolutely not necessary to be Christian or Catholic to appreciate and enjoy the nuances of this novel. It's an amazing story. All right, that's where I'll leave you if you haven't read this yet. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for being here.
The Spoiler Room.
Okay, if you're still here, that means you've read this book already, and I just want to go into a few of those last big impactful things that I got out of this. The most mind-blowing aspect of the book for me, that I actually want to have true, is to discover that aliens have been monitoring Earth for centuries, and through their incredible technology, they actually saw Jesus alive here on the planet doing his ministry. And that includes they visually recorded his resurrection and the ascension. They could see it. It was on film, and they still have it. They are Roman Catholic because they had already separately come to the logical, rational conclusion there must be a God, but they figured, they were more of a deist nature. Deists are those who acknowledge there is a God, but he's not involved. He created and then he's off doing whatever. Hands off. And that's how the aliens were until they saw God take an active role on Earth. They found Earth, and so far, Earth is the only other place in the entire universe where they found sentient life. So they're watching it all these years, and they get to see God through Jesus take an active part in humanity. This visually recorded, scientific, measurable proof for them is all it takes. They're believers now, and that's what draws them here to Earth, to be closer to God, because this is where he chose to physically manifest. I mean, if that was true, mind-blowing. So again, part of me wants this I want to see that video. That would be incredible. But if it truly had happened, you get how that would happen to these aliens. Additionally, with such absolute proof, the aliens have rock-solid belief. Now, this isn't actually faith. They believe without doubt because they have seen. They have the proof. Faith is believing even though we have not seen, which is what the rest of us measly Christians in this world have. The aliens, with their absolute belief, leave little room for the petty squabbles that have existed amongst humanity with many different faith beliefs, which leads to that shocking scene where they literally eliminate every non-Christian in Saudi Arabia. They kill them all. It's a devastating scene, but it's the setup to that ultimate sacrifice that Virgil will make near the end of the book, where we get that surprise that Virgil, this AI, is really the avatar for one of the aliens, the second in command now, Virgil, and he gives up his life on behalf of Austin. He literally sacrifices himself. Wow. And that sacrifice, he does it knowingly because it's how he manifests God's love. And that turns the aliens away from this law focus to being more graceful and forgiving. This was a powerful demonstration of the core of true Christianity. I know in our world, Christians get a hard knock, but that's based on people who are not acting very Christian. True Christianity, this is it. What you see displayed in this book and the impact it had on Austin was just as impactful to me as a reader. I was in awe. I told you, deep thinking in this book. All right, that's what I have for you here today. What are your thoughts? Drop your comments down below. I'd love to see them. Also, look in the show notes. Other ways you can interact with Zach and I. We welcome any interactions. Thanks for being here today. I hope you enjoyed Pilgrims like I did. We'll talk to you next time.